All right, this is Tom here. I'm here with a good friend of mine and a colleague, Nathan Hovekamp. And Nathan has been been serving this community in various ways over the years. For our talk today, for his work, I contacted Nathan to talk about Ben Park and Rec District and all the amazing work that they do. He has been on the board for 6 years, 2 years most recently as chair of the Ben Park and Rec District board. And it's been really enjoyable, Nathan, to chat with you over the years about all of your involvement as public servant, serving the community, and then thinking about Ben Park and Rec District does so many things for the community. And it's been interesting to sort of see the intersection of kind of sociology and public service, and Parks and Rec as being part of that. So to start off today, so first of all, thank you for joining and thanks for sharing your perspective. It's always valued and appreciated. How would you describe the value of the Ben Park and Rec District to the community at large?
Thanks, Dr. Berry. It's good to be here. This is fun. And yeah, I have enjoyed my involvement on the Park and Rec Board for the past 6 years a lot. And I think that's a great question about what does the Ben Park and Rec District add in terms of value to the community. And I'll just, I have grown to really admire what the Park and Rec District does for the community. And just to hit on some of those highlights, we manage on behalf of the public 81 parks and 70 miles of trail. We have natural areas, little pocket parks and open space for the community. Ben Park and Rec offers over 1,000 recreational programs for all ages and abilities at facilities that you're probably familiar with: Juniper Swim and Fitness Center, the Pavilion, where the ice arena is, Larkspur Center, which will be opening soon, a tripling of the capacity at the site of the Ben Senior Center, and then the Art Station, which we took under our wing a few years ago. And I'll just say that the Ben Park and Rec is a separate taxing authority with our own governing body. So we have a board of directors that I sit on, and I'm current chair, just like the city has a city council or the school district has a school board. We're kind of our own separate governing body. And then lastly, in terms of some of the programming and activities that I think add value from us to the community, we have a huge array, like I say, over 1,000 programs, some of them more familiar to folks and some maybe a little bit less so, but things like arts and crafts, childcare, classes in cooking and gardening. Of course, we do fitness classes, both cardio and strength, music, nature classes, dance, photography, science, summer camps, swim lessons, ice skating, of course, roller skating, hockey and curling and other winter sports, and then a whole array of youth and adult sports that you're familiar with: baseball, softball, basketball, football, golf, soccer, tennis and volleyball, and many others. So Tom, that's my answer to your question. I think that it's that entire array of parks, trails, facilities, and programming that adds value to the community.
Yeah, I mean, it's a way for what I hear in there. It's health and wellness. It's overall health, it's wellness, focus on wellness, education, a lot of inclusion kind of components within that, the diversity of programs, locations, ages, abilities that are part of that. So it kind of leads to my next question a little bit, and I think it's very unique too. I mean, I'll probably talk about this in my class about that having being independent, have its own taxing authority, allows for greater autonomy and to do amazing things for the community. It's one of the things that makes Ben quite unique, is the great things that the Park and Rec District does for the community at large. And it's invisible for a lot of people. It's just there, right? Without understanding kind of historical backdrop to it, and kind of like it's kind of the things that it does for the community itself, which is kind of one thing that kind of interested in exploring here. We can define like physical infrastructure. Oftentimes, roads, sewage lines, electricity, broadband coverage. I mean, the physical infrastructure of a community is important for moving people around, making sure services are being provided, those kind of things. Social infrastructure is not oftentimes talked about, but is, I would argue, probably more important. Once you get to a baseline physical infrastructure, it's the social infrastructure. It's the way in which institutions are working to create a sense of community, a sense of connection, a sense of sharedness, a sense of belonging and connection, and those kind of things, of feeling community. How would you describe Ben Park and Rec in terms of being a part of this sort of social infrastructure in Central Oregon?
Thanks, Tom. And I agree that that's a really useful way of thinking about communities in terms of physical infrastructure, which most people are familiar with, as you described it, roads and utilities and all of that, and then social infrastructure. I think that's a very useful way to think about it. I'm really proud of Park and Rec as an essential component of the social infrastructure in our community. And I think this really goes to our vision statement, which is to our vision at Ben Park and Rec is to be a leader in building a community connected to nature, to active lifestyles, and to one another. And we know from, as you've alluded to, we know from sociology, psychology, even animal behavior and other perspectives, for instance, the importance of play. And it's important, we know, in cognitive context during our development, all throughout our youth, throughout our entire life, and even in our old age, to maintaining cognition and cognitive ability. It's important in social cohesion and in reinforcing behavioral norms. Play has come out in recent decades as just critically important. Another aspect to which we contribute in terms of social infrastructure is the importance of movement. Just moving your body, fitness, again, cardio and strength and balance and coordination, and maintaining that as we age. Health, physical and psychological health is tied into movement and staying active. And then we provide, our programs provide an outlet for energy and creativity, curiosity, individual expression, and again, group collaboration. So I'd say our contributions to infrastructure are important from the perspective of play and movement. And then last, I would add just simply being outdoors and experiencing nature. Sunshine and fresh air, it turns out, are important physically, psychologically, and in other ways in our development throughout life. Our bodies are adapted to walking and running, and even just letting our eyes stretch to the horizon and get away from the screens a little bit, like all of our eyes are glued to so much anymore. And using all of our senses and sharpening all of our sensory modalities. I think being in nature deepens and appreciates our desire to be better stewards of the natural environment, and again, can provide for connectedness to one another in sort of building and thinking about social infrastructure.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Nathan. Yeah, that sort of perspective, all that all those different aspects. I mean, think about Park and Rec. Maybe the first thing people go to are the athletic programs or the fitness programs, which are an important component. There's so many other things that are aspects of that. And I like that idea of play and reinforcing norms, that social cohesion. So being able to be in space with people that come from a different group background, a different demographic than yourself, being sort of in the pool together, being on, working in the gym together. They're subtle, but they're important, right? They're important. That, okay, we're a member of the community at large. I couldn't have, this is an example used in my pop culture class last term about about social infrastructure, or actually as a guest lecturer, I provided someone's class. And it was like, there's a need for, like private, facilities, fitness facilities. I mean, no harm, no foul. I mean, they're an important part of the community. One of the things that Park and Rec can do that a private facility cannot is it can bring people from a lot of different backgrounds together in a common space. If you belong to a fitness facility, okay, economics, number one, you have dollars that are associated with that. So that can be a little restrictive for some, in terms of access. And everyone who goes there is going there with a similar purpose in terms of exercising, which isn't necessarily the case. You go to Juniper Swim and Fitness, people are there for a lot of different reasons. It's not only one reason they're there. So could you talk a little bit about this, sort of the final question about the issue of equity and inclusion, of being mindful? How mindful is Park and Rec to not only to providing programs and services that are reflective of, that don't restrict access based on economics or based on other factors, but really trying to be this really inclusive environment, because it's for the community, not for just pockets of the community?
Yeah, great. Yeah, that is so awesome. One thing that comes to mind, just popped into my mind, is that first of all, we're a public agency, and our programs are open to the public, so they're not private, as you alluded to. One thing that we guard is in our recreational programming is that it's explicitly recreational and developmental, in some cases therapeutic in nature. And in the different youth sports, for instance, there are leagues in town that are private leagues that are affiliated with us, but that have more competitive levels and so forth. And we want to be coordinating with them and be a pathway for some kids that are interested in that to continue on. But our focus remains on more recreational rather than competitive. But in the larger sense, in answering your question, and this is one of the areas where I think we are the strongest. I'm the most proud of Ben, Park and Rec, in thinking about how we serve the entire community and how we always keep that perspective, that critically important perspective you just alluded to, Tom. Briefly, some of our very biggest capital projects are on the east side of Bend. And there's this continuing conversation in Bend about east versus west side, and we want to be very mindful of that. And just to point out a few, as for example, we just finished building Rock Ridge Community Park. This is not a little neighborhood park that's usually 2 to 5 acres, but these are the big community parks that are 10 times that big, 20 to 30 acres. Rock Ridge is up in the northeast quadrant of the city. We are currently building another community park, Alpenglow, in the southeast corner of the city, again on the east side. And we have more phases and projects going on at the massive sports complexes at Pine Nursery and Big Sky, which are also east side locations than anywhere else. Our largest capital project in the history of the district is the Larkspur Center, which it's a $22-23 million project that we are finishing up now. It's just about done and ready to be open. And then finally, I will point to massive renovations that we've been doing in the last few years at our much beloved Juniper Swim and Fitness Center, also an east side location. So we are all about the east side. Other ways in which we are mindful of the entire community, we have what are called level of service targets, LOS, or level of service targets. And I'll just highlight one, and that is that we aim to have a park within a half-mile walking distance of everyone in the district. And so we have recently reworked our level of service targets to actually consider what are called walk sheds and walking distance. So it's not just as the crow flies, but it's a more meaningful metric for people to actually walk. Sometimes they have to take a little bit more of a circuitous pathway, or they have to be mindful of a busy road that's a barrier. So we think a lot about that. We're building out an urban trail system and completing connections, in thinking about trails in terms of not just recreational use, but as an alternative mode of transportation that people can actually use between their homes and school and work, either on foot or with bikes, that it's a critical part of getting around in town. Finally, just a couple more examples. We've made some recent changes to our system development charges. These are also called growth impact fees that are charged with each residential house constructed to help us keep up with growth. And thinking about equity concerns, the Bend Park and Rec District has in recent years participated in waivers for affordable housing. So we waive that system development charge in order to make the price of housing more affordable. And then we've also instituted a formulation for SDCs that's progressive, that has tiers based upon square footage, so that more expensive, larger homes pay more in SDCs, and smaller, less expensive homes pay less in an effort toward affordability. The district also has a broad array of efforts called collectively a needs-based assistance program that includes scholarships for those individuals and families facing economic challenges. We offer subsidized programs and facilities. And then last, Bend Park and Rec offers daycare and after school care, Kids Inc. For working families. And most recently during the pandemic, we have been partnering with the schools in a program called Team Up for parents with young children that need a place to go to when they're at work. So all of these programs and so forth. And one last one I would add is that we also explicitly have an outreach program to underserved populations with a Latino community specialist, that is Katia, who's just awesome. So it's built in, Tom, considerations of the entire community, and being mindful of the entire community is built into everything we do.
Yeah, it's makes it one of the gems of Bend, and every community would benefit by having an organization kind of similar minded. It's just a great example and illustration of a lot of great leadership, kind of the vision of the community, bringing people together for a lot of different, for health, wellness, development, long-term, across the lifespan. So thanks for your expertise there, Dr. Hovekamp, and for spending your time with us. And man, appreciate all of your service to the community. It has an impact, and we don't know behind the scenes, right? We just kind of migrate around the community, and sometimes things just are there and we don't know the history behind it or how things are going on. But it's a busy organization, especially the last year and a half, probably more than ever, just like trying to deal with everything post-COVID kind of thing. So anyway, thanks for all your leadership. Thanks for all of your perspective. You have yourself a beautiful rest of your day.
Enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.